What is up, everybody? Welcome into the show. You're watching the San Francisco 49ers Report. Chase Sr. here with you. And as always, no matter where you are or how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. It is a beautiful Thursday, November 20th. Can't believe that we're about to embark on the month of December. 2025 has flown by. This show, it's going to fly by because it's going to be a great one. Here's what's coming up here on the program. Could Robert Saleh leave the Niners after this year to get a head coaching job? Mac Jones trade buzz really starting to heat up. We're going to do a Niners-Panthers preview for Monday Night Football. Preview a little bit later in the week because the game is on Monday. Then we'll round things out with the mailbag. Let's get those questions in. Use the hashtag 49ers or send in a super chat. Niners returning to Levi's Stadium for some prime time football. Monday, November 24th, Week 12 matchup against Carolina. Panthers coming to town. Kickoff set for 8:15 p.m. Eastern, 5:15 p.m. at Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara. The over-under for this game is at 49.5. And when I looked at the odds this morning, I had to look at them twice. I really can't believe that the Niners are touchdown favorites in this football game against a Panthers team that has won 6 games this year. But clearly, the odds makers really like the Niners. They were impressed with what San Francisco did last Sunday against the Arizona Cardinals. Yes, Brock Purdy worth maybe a point on the betting line as well. But the Niners, touchdown favorites. Niner fans should be pumped up about that. This is a winnable game that can get you to 8-4 on the year. And you'll really be sitting nicely as far as the NFC playoff picture goes. And speaking of that, right on cue, producer Chip, always on it. He's very sharp. He's a smart guy. Philadelphia Eagles in that number 1 spot at 8-2. You see the Rams there after beating Seattle last week, moving up to the 2-hole at 8-2. The Bears leading the NFC North at 7-3 because the Lions lost on Sunday Night Football to the Eagles. The Buccaneers dropping to that 4th spot at 6-4. You have Seattle at 7-3. The Packers in that 6th spot at 6-3-1, the 7th seed. Your San Francisco 49ers at 7-4, and they moved into that final playoff spot because of that Lions loss and some other things that shuffled things inside the NFC. And so really, the Niners can control their own destiny, and this is where that easiest schedule in the NFL really helps San Francisco for the rest of the way. The other teams in the mix, 6-4 Detroit. You have Carolina there at 6-5. So I know nationally there might not be a lot of hype around this game between the Niners and the Panthers on Monday night, but for those of you who want to see postseason Niners football, this game is huge and could determine a wild card position by season's end because the Panthers firmly in the mix. If the Panthers win the NFC South, that makes the Buccaneers a wild card team, and the Buccaneers have that tiebreaker over the Niners here. So San Francisco got to take care of business on Monday night at Levi's Stadium, and as touchdown favorites, you can't lose this football game. All right, we're about to get the official show started. I do want you to get those questions in. It's very easy. Within your comment, use the hashtag 49ers or send in a super chat. That's hashtag 49ers or send in a super chat. We're closing in on about 300 people watching live already. We only have 37 likes. I guarantee you this, if you pepper that thumbs up icon and like the video and you get us to 100 likes, 300 plus people are going to be in here. So help us out, support the show. If you want some more Niner fans hanging out, hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. Segment number 1, will Robert Saleh get a head coaching job? A lot of new reporting on that front. Saleh could be one of the favorites to become a head coach in this cycle coming up during the offseason, and Mac Jones trade buzz really starting to take place and pick up steam. Producer Chip's ready to go. I'm ready to go. The faithful rocking and rolling with us from all across the globe is ready to go as well. So let's start the official show right now. What is up, everybody? Welcome into the show. You're watching the San Francisco 49ers Report. My name is Chase Sr. Hope you're all having a fantastic day. Coming up here on the show, is Robert Saleh going to leave the Niners after this year to get another head coaching job? Also, Mac Jones trade buzz really starting to heat up for some quarterback-needy teams as they look ahead to the 2026 offseason in search of a new signal caller. And let's begin here with topic number one, talking about the Niners defensive coordinator in Saleh. Will he get some head coaching buzz this offseason? I think it's inevitable. And if he leaves the Niners after this year for the second time, it would not surprise me at all. I think Robert Saleh is a really good head coaching candidate for some rebuilding teams and for teams who could be in search of a new head coach. And already there are a few openings across the NFL and more to come. Brian Daboll got fired. Brian Callahan got fired. So already Tennessee, New York Giants looking for a new head coach. And I think that Saleh could fit the mold for a couple of different organizations. But I think from his standpoint, he's looking at some of these jobs and he's saying, I was with the New York Jets, poorly run organization, bad owner, perennial losers. There was no stability. There was no structure. And I got canned early last year. I think if I'm Saleh, I want to go somewhere where my footing is a little bit more stable beneath me. But why I think Saleh is a good candidate, he's obviously a great defensive mind. He has leadership qualities that you want and value in a head coach. His players respect him. They play hard. He got fired by the Jets. Even some of the defensive players with New York still talk him up. Some players who were with the Niners, now with other teams like Eric Armstead, they are very complimentary toward Robert Saleh. I also really like Saleh's energy and his commanding presence. And I think that because he has connections to the Kyle Shanahan tree, the Sean McVay tree, and his experience at the NFL level, he could put together a really quality coaching staff. And when Saleh was with the Jets, I know some casuals will look at the win-loss record and they'll say he sucks as a head coach. There's no way that he could work out for a different organization. The defense, which is his specialty, was never the issue. It was a very high-performing unit. And some players had career years under Robert Saleh. He developed them and maximized them into being excellent players on that side of the ball. The issue with the Jets, ownership, Woody Johnson is a fraud, and they never got the quarterback position right. Zach Wilson, overdrafted. I never liked the fit of growing up in Utah, going to BYU, and then playing for the New York Jets. That is a culture shock right there. And it turns out that he was also a pretty raw football player. And then the Jets made that move for Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers, 4 plays in, pops his Achilles. And then last year, it just wasn't a good situation, and Saleh didn't even last the season. Now, a big component here is that Saleh has connections to the Shanahan and McVay tree. So he can hire a good offensive coordinator, and he could bring an OC with him who's able to develop and maximize a quarterback if he goes to a team that drafts a quarterback early. Even if that team has a quarterback in place who they like, but they just happen to fire their head coach and brought in Saleh as a new head coach, I think that OC paired with a quarterback in place would be able to put together an offensive scheme, and they'd be able to find some offensive success. And if they found offensive success, I trust and I believe in Robert Saleh to put together a really good defense. Now, here's what Albert Breer, NFL insider for Sports Illustrated, said about the chances of Saleh getting a head coaching job. He said, I think Saleh is at least going to elicit interest and may well land a job. He'll interview well. He's very close with a lot of the Shanahan McVay tree offensive coaches, so finding a good OC won't be a chore, and he'll be able to energize a franchise that's fallen on hard times. I could see the Titans taking a long look at him, paired potentially with Mike McDaniel if he doesn't make it in Miami, or Mike LaFleur to run the offense. If Saleh's out for the Niners, I know current Falcons defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich would be very high on Kyle Shanahan's list. Whether he actually becomes available is another question. He likely won't. So my guess is Gus Bradley, who's currently in-house with the Niners. He would probably be the guy. Shanahan has grown to really like him, and he'd be able to take the baton pretty easily from Saleh, whom he mentored years ago. I think Jeff Ulbrich could become available because I think that Falcons coaching staff is on thin ice, and if it's not Ulbrich, look out for Raheem Morris, who Kyle Shanahan really likes, but wouldn't surprise me if Sean McVay brought back Raheem Morris if he were to lose his current defensive coordinator in Chris Shula, who could end up being a head coach for a team like the New York Giants. Now, you look at how the Niners stack up here on offense, on defense, mainly with the topic of conversation today. We're focusing in on defense here because we're discussing Saleh and the possibilities behind him leaving after this year. I think he's done a really good job considering the circumstances, right? Losing Nick Bosa and Fred Warner, two of the top players in football and two all-time guys, doesn't make your job as a DC easy, right? Having to play a lot of young players is also a difficult task. Yet the Niners, despite everything that's gone against them on defense this year, 15th in points per game at 22.9. Another number that I like there, 16th in red zone touchdown efficiency. Obviously, if Saleh were to leave, this would suck for the Niners. Saleh's done a tremendous job this year with what he's been given. The players on the roster, they love him for the defensive mind that he possesses, for the energy, the swagger that he has on that sideline, the communicator that he is. And I think something that's not talked about much is how he over time has been able to adapt and evolve his defensive thinking, defensive mindset, because he has a very good pulse on some of the nuances and some of the modern day offensive concepts. Why a team might not hire Robert Saleh. I told you earlier why I think he's a good candidate if a team wants an offensive mind. And that's the route that I would go if I were a general manager looking for a head coach, if I were an owner looking for a head coach. Because you can land a really good defensive coach to be your head coach. The issue, though, is if that defensive head coach hits on an offensive coordinator and that offensive coordinator has that offense humming, he's going to leave for a head coaching job. And then you're constantly looking for new OCs. And when that OC has success, they will then get poached by a different team who's looking for an offensive-minded head coach. The other thing, too, for teams looking for head coaches right now, a lot of these teams might be in a position to draft a young quarterback. And they want to draft a young quarterback and pair that young quarterback up with a young offensive mind so that they can grow together on the offensive side of the football. Now, Albert Breer had mentioned that Jeff Ulbrich would be a viable candidate. I've talked about this here for a little while. This is a guy who the Niners tried to hire instead of Nick Sorensen going into 2024, but he was the DC under Saleh. Saleh didn't want to let him go. And once Saleh was fired, Ulbrich became the interim head coach. Obviously, the Jets had a regime change there. Raheem Morris hired him very quickly to be the Falcons' defensive coordinator. This Falcons defense last year was one of the worst in the NFL. They could not get after the quarterback, and they were bad all around. This year, we have seen some sizable improvements. Now, on offense, they have been a mess. On defense, not bad. 19th in points per game at 23.9. 16th in yards per game, 326.5. 17th in yards per play, 16th on third downs, 20th in the red zone. But it's not like they have a bunch of great defensive personnel. I do have a concern with the rushing defense because the Niners this offseason, especially in the draft with the players who they took, put an emphasis on rebuilding the rushing defense. Atlanta this year, not good against the run. 26th in yards per rush, 28th in rushes per game, 28th in rushing yards per game. But their pass defense, not bad. 7.4 yards per pass, that's 25th in the NFL. But they're 6th in passing yards per game given up at 188. And their sack percentage, last in the NFL last year, this year is number 3 at 10.73%. Ulbrich would be an external candidate, another internal candidate, a guy like Gus Bradley, who right now is the assistant head coach of the defense. I think this was part of Kyle Shanahan's thinking when they brought in Saleh, that if he ended up coaching well and the defense performed well and he got some opportunities to become a head coach after 2025, you have a guy in place who runs and has run a similar system in Gus Bradley. You could internally promote him and hopefully not really miss a beat. And obviously, Bradley has been a head coach for the Jags. He's been a defensive coordinator for many, many years across the NFL. Keep this name in mind. A rising internal candidate is a player who will remind you of that Legion of Boom defense back in the day. KJ Wright, who used to be a linebacker for Seattle, played, I believe, under Gus Bradley. He right now on this Niners staff as a defensive quality control coach. Some of you might say that's not a position that can be promoted from there to becoming defensive coordinator. Look, I know it's a different spot, but D'Amico Ryans was this team's linebackers coach. Saleh left. He became the DC, and he ended up being one of the top DCs in the game. And 2 years later, head coach of the Texans, and he's won a playoff game in each of his first 2 years as the head man with Houston. Will Saleh land a head coaching job this offseason? A simple yes or no. I want you to treat the comment section like a sports talk radio call-in line. This is the YouTube version of it. Share your thoughts with me. Join the conversation down below. Coming up next, Mac Jones trade buzz stays hot as we look ahead to the offseason. Teams who are in need of a quarterback, I guarantee you, they're going to be calling the Niners, asking what the price tag is for Mac. Let's first get to our sponsor. Today's 49ers Report is brought to you by Prize Picks. The hard-hitting football action, even better with Prize Picks. The weather might be changing, but the feeling of being right never gets old. So keep the season rolling on Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. This is America's #1 fantasy sports app. Join the millions of users and sign up today. Prize Picks always puts their users first. All withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Prize Picks offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. This is the best way to win cash this football season. Which players are going off? Which players are overhyped? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your takes into cash all season long on Prize Picks. 2-pick power play for all of you legends out there. Christian McCaffrey, more than 47.5 receiving yards. Tet McMillan, more than a half rushing or receiving touchdown. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code CLNS. Get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Let's talk some Mac Jones trade buzz here. For teams who are going to need a quarterback going into 2026, meaning they'll need a quarterback this offseason, Mac Jones could be a prime trade target this offseason. Now, I think that which quarterbacks declare for the draft is going to go a long way in deciding which teams are quarterback needy. And so let me pop up Mel Kiper's top 10 2026 quarterbacks. You have Dante Moore out of Oregon, #1 on his board. Fernando Mendoza out of Indiana. Ty Simpson, Alabama. Lenore Sellers, South Carolina. John Mateer, Oklahoma. Carson Beck, Miami. Yuck. Sam Levitt, Arizona State. I think he's leaving, might transfer. Sorry, Jack. Brandon Sorsby out of Cincinnati. Jaden Craig out of Harvard. And then Trinidad Chambliss out of Ole Miss. Other top quarterback prospects in this 2026 class: Jane Maiava, USC. Drew Aller, coming off a broken ankle, Penn State. Garrett Nussmeier, LSU. His stock has fallen. Josh Hoover out of TCU. I like him. And Diego Pavia, a winner who's turned around and resurrected that Vandy program. I just think he's a little bit too short. The issue, though, with this quarterback class, some of the top quarterbacks in this class, like a Dante Moore, like a Ty Simpson, who's only started 1 year, they could end up going back to school, meaning they don't enter the draft, which thus makes this quarterback class thin, which could make Mac Jones a prime trade target. And I think that Mac this year has resurrected his career. He's played really well. What a great story, going 5-3 with Brock Purdy hurt. And he has proven that he can be a legitimate starter in this league. And there's a reason why the guy was a first-round pick. His final year at Alabama, when he won a national championship under Nick Saban, he was unbelievable that year. And this year, what have we seen? Well, my scouting report on him, he's a big-bodied pocket quarterback, good pocket mobility. He has a strong arm with good touch. He was producing with so many injuries on offense, bad offensive line play, and a lack of running game. For a bulk of his starting stint, Kendrick Bourne, who was let go by the New England Patriots, was his wide receiver one. Now that the Niners are healthy at the position, Kendrick Bourne didn't get a lot of snaps last week for Brock Purdy. If you have a team that can run the ball successfully, Mac Jones can operate with play action, and he'd benefit from a good running game. And he's a quarterback who can play point guard and distribute the rock. Some people might say, Chase, the big play offense disappeared with Mac. That's because they didn't have any explosiveness or speed at the wide receiver spot. Remember the first preseason game when he threw that 50-yard pass to Jordan Watkins? The guy has a deep ball, and we've seen it. And this year, we also saw some accuracy. This is a big enough sample size where teams can look at the tape and say, we think that we can win with Mac Jones, and we think that Mac Jones can be productive. He completed nearly 70% of his passes, 2,100 yards, 13 touchdowns, 6 picks. Some of the picks were not on him. He had a quarterback rating of 97.4, and ladies and gentlemen, he was top 10 in the NFL in passing yards. Now, of course, if you do trade Mac Jones, question becomes this: what is his trade value? I really do think that given the position that he plays, the desperation level of a team needing a quarterback, and given the importance of the position, right, and how well he played this year, the Niners can get at least a second-round pick back for Mac Jones. At least a second-round pick back for Mac Jones. You might be able to swindle a team into giving you a second and a fourth, a second and a third. Because if that team gets the quarterback spot right with Mac Jones, he's also affordable next year, which goes into the value at just over $4 million. He can end up being a steal. And if you were to re-sign him to a long-term deal, I think that you could get Mac Jones on that type of Daniel Jones, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold type of deal between 30 and 40 million. When the quarterback market soon, a lot of these guys are going to be paid 60 to 70. Shoot, Dak is already at 60 plus. Mac Jones destinations. These are the teams that I think everybody should look out for here. Minnesota Vikings, if they trade for Mac Jones, say goodbye to J.J. McCarthy. The Miami Dolphins, Tua Tagovailoa stinks. I've been saying it for years. Arizona Cardinals, Jacoby Brissett has played well. Why? I think the Cardinals really like a more traditional pocket drop-back quarterback. Kyler Murray is not that, and I think Arizona could move off of Kyler. Carolina Panthers, Bryce Young's not that good. And if Dave Canales can get a good quarterback, look out. And the New York Jets, they might be paying Aaron Rodgers and Justin Fields to not play on their team next year. They're going to be in need of a quarterback. Now, obviously, some of these teams could draft a quarterback, but again, this draft class could be pretty thin if some of these quarterbacks go back to school. It is certainly an interesting topic that we have to discuss in the realm of this conversation as well. And the Niners can go down two avenues, right? Trade Mac Jones, keep Mac Jones. What it comes down to and what the Niners are going to have to decide on. Do the Niners want to side with wanting draft picks where they could get, let's say, a second and a fourth? Or do they want great quarterback security at excellent value, knowing that Mac Jones next year is under contract for just over $4 million? Brock Purdy has missed time in 2022 and gotten injured then. He got injured in 2024. He got injured again in 2025. The Niners are a playoff caliber team this year because of Mac Jones. And they have proven that they can win and compete and play at a high level with Mac Jones. So that's a great quarterback security element of it. But the Niners are in this phase right now where they didn't make a move at the NFL trade deadline because they wanted to keep their picks for the future. And obviously they want to build through the draft because these players are developmental pieces who are cost-controlled assets under contract for the next 4 to 5 years. And if you can get back a couple of picks for Mac, is that deal too good to turn down? There's also this. The Niners have a developmental quarterback on their roster who I think Kyle Shanahan really likes. And a lot of evaluators think that Curtis Rourke, the 7th-round pick out of Indiana, could end up being a really good quarterback in Kyle Shanahan's scheme. He's big. He can layer throws. He throws with good touch. He's not mobile, but last year played pretty well at Indiana. Hasn't played, obviously, this year. And The Niners haven't activated him because of that torn ACL that he played through last year. So he rehabs that. This becomes a redshirt year. He could end up being QB2, and then the Niners could draft a QB3, or they could try to bring in another Kyle Shanahan quarterback rehab project. A player like Sam Darnold, a player like Mac Jones, first-round picks who didn't work out, who come to the Niners to rehabilitate their careers, to learn this Shanahan offense, to learn from Shanahan and Brock Purdy, to get their careers back on track. These 5 players really fit that mold. Zach Wilson, Anthony Richardson, J.J. McCarthy, Bryce Young, Justin Fields. Let me throw another name out there. I don't think it's going to happen, but I will say this. What Jim Harbaugh did with Trey Lance in the preseason, pretty impressive. Lance looked so much better than how he looked with the Cowboys or with the Niners. He's going to be a free agent. Now, with the storyline and the baggage that would come with that, it's not going to happen, but it would be fascinating. Don't forget to give me a follow on X and Instagram at Chase_Senior, by the way. I'm always talking Niners every single day here on YouTube. I'm talking Niners and covering them on my personal pages as well. Another reminder, get those questions in for our mailbag. Use the hashtag 49ers or send in a super chat. Hashtag 49ers or send in a super chat. Coming up next, we're going to preview this Niners-Panthers Monday Night Football game. It's coming up here momentarily. Shout out to the recent commenter club, Random Access, Pierce Clark, Niner Faithful, Corey Humphrey, Thomas. I see you all in the chat. Hope you're all having a fantastic day, everybody. 49ers Report Live. Chase Senior, producer Chip, hanging out here with you on this Thursday, November 20th. Niners about to embark on Week 12, Monday Night Football against the Carolina Panthers. And without further ado, let's preview this game right now. This is the San Francisco 49ers Report. My name is Chase Senior. Coming up here on the show, I'm going to preview this Monday Night Football game in Week 12 at Levi's Stadium between the 49ers and the Carolina Panthers. San Francisco in this game, I was shocked when I saw this line. Touchdown favorites, giving 7 points to Carolina. And the over-under is even pretty high, 49.5. Kickoff set for 8:15 p.m. Eastern, 5:15 p.m. Pacific at Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara. And you already know, we'll be live for a watch party right here on the Niners Report, the best place to experience a Niners game day outside of being at the actual game. We'll go live for a pregame show. We'll be live during the game, live play-by-play, audience interaction, super chat, giveaways. We'll take down some beers. And then after the game, we'll be live and react to everything with our post-game show. My initial thoughts on this matchup. The Carolina Panthers are a feisty team. You might hear Carolina Panthers and say, oh, of late they've sucked. This year they suck. They've won 6 games this season. Dave Canales, really good head coach. Really made a name for himself being Baker Mayfield's offensive coordinator a couple of years ago. And while Bryce Young played well at the back half of last year, hasn't really played well this year, Dave Canales, if you get him a quarterback, I think that he can be one of the top coaches in the NFL. When you look at some of the Panthers' numbers, they can't get after the quarterback. Bryce Young has not been good this season. It's pretty wild that they have won 6 games this season. That comes down to high-quality coaching, this team being ready, making some adjustments, and obviously quality coaching, maximizing the current players on this roster. The Niners, huge favorites in this game. I think given what they did against the Cardinals and how well the offense played with Brock Purdy being back, Ricky Pearsall being healthy, George Kittle rounding into form, that went into the Niners being favored by a touchdown in this game. And a big storyline here on Monday night that I'll be watching closely. Can this Niners offense, with what they did against Arizona, continue its momentum? Because I've said this a lot here on the show. This defense is going to struggle. This Niners defense, like Carolina, can't get after the quarterback. So this offense is going to have to carry this squad, and they're going to have to hover around 30 points per game to make up for this defense not being that good. The Panthers thus far this season started off 0-2. And you're thinking, yeah, Panthers, bad football team. They're going to pick in the top 5 in the 2026 draft. They've really turned it around. They lost week 1, 26-10, on the road to the Jags. Week 2, lost to the Cardinals 27-22. They come home for their home opener, and they dust the Atlanta Falcons. Shutout, 30-0 win. They lose against the Patriots 42-13. They hold off by 3 against the Dolphins in a game where they came back and had no business winning, 27-24. The Panthers at home beat the Dallas Cowboys 30-27. Rico Dowdle ran crazy against his former team. Edged the Jets 13-6, one of the more exciting games of the year. Sarcasm. 40-9 loss against the Buffalo Bills. Beat the Packers at the buzzer on a game-winning field goal 16-13. Then they come back off of that huge win and lose to the Saints 17-7. And then they sweep the Falcons and beat Atlanta for a second time this year, 30-27 in overtime. So an up and down weird year for Carolina. At times, they've looked good. At times, they've looked bad. But when it comes down to it, it's not like they've beaten a bunch of great teams, but they've won 6 games this year. And a lot of people didn't think that they could get to that. And here we are entering week 12. So when I scout Carolina, this is one of the worst pass rushing units in the National Football League, right down there with the Niners. Bryce Young has not been good, but this offense runs through and leans on running back Rico Dowdle, who had a career year last year with Dallas, and this year has been one of the top backs in football. And I'm just telling you right now, I saw what Dave Canales did in 2023 with Baker Mayfield when Baker resurrected his career. If he gets a quality quarterback, this Panthers team in the NFC, given how bad the NFC South is, could be a playoff team before it's said and done, and a playoff team very quickly. And shoot, this year, they're vying to be a playoff team. Some injury news on both sidelines here. For Carolina, wide receiver Xavier Legette, hip injury, questionable. Linebacker Christian Roseboom, hamstring, questionable. Xavier Legette, a big-bodied wide receiver, is expected to play in this game. On the injury front for the Niners, early in the year, this was literally a couple of different pages. As I record this show on Thursday, November 20th, these are the Niners' notable injuries. Tatum Bethune will not play, high ankle sprain. Eddie Pinheiro will not play, hamstring strain, grade 1. Robert Beal, edge rusher, in concussion protocol. I never liked the decision for the Niners to activate him instead of Cleveland Ferrell. We'll see what the Niners do at that edge rusher spot. I would opt with Ferrell because I think he's a better player. Speaking of Eddie Pinheiro, the Niners making a roster move this week. On Wednesday, they did sign kicker Matt Gay. Won a Super Bowl with the Rams back in 2021 and was great that year. He was a Pro Bowler with the Rams as well. Last 2 years with the Colts and with the Commanders, he struggled a little bit. Not on extra points. He's 100% on extra points the last 2 years. But on kicks of 50+, he has missed his mark. This season with Washington, funny enough, he was let go. And then the Commanders signed Jake Moody. 2 of 2 on kicks of 20 to 29 yards. 30 to 39, 2 of 3. 5 of 5 on kicks of 40 to 49 yards. But only 4 of 9 on kicks of 50+. Eddie Pinheiro, 22 for 22 on his field goals this year. Incredibly clutch. All Matt Gay has to do is hold the water until Eddie Pinheiro is able to come back. So who you got in this football game? CAR for Carolina, SF for the 49ers. Get those predictions in right now. Coming up next, we're about to get into the meat and potatoes of our preview. My keys to the game. Top matchups to watch. What the Niners must do to beat Carolina on Monday night. Stay tuned for all of that. But let's first get to our sponsor. Our friends at Harry's, making today's 49ers Report possible. We have a great deal. Check it out for yourself at harrys.com/chat. And for all my fellas out there, when using a razor, does it get dull too fast? Does it irritate your neck? Do razors just cost too much? Like $30 for 8 refills? That is a total scam. When I first started using Harry's razors, I was amazed at how clean of a shave it was. It didn't irritate my neck, and how affordable it was as well. Harry's Plus has an advanced pivoting system to reach every corner of your face, refined blade tech for a closer, smoother shave, and a weighted metal handle for added control and comfort. With Harry's Plus, you get a barbershop quality shave with German engineered blades. Each blade is honed at 3 different angles to cut hair cleanly at the root without tugging. Blade spacing is optimized to glide smoothly and avoid clogging. Drugstore blades clog so fast. The real ones know. Every cartridge includes a lubricating strip with aloe and vitamin E to calm skin while you shave. That's big for me because I do get sensitive when I shave with bad razors, not with Harry's. Harry's owns their own world-class blade factory in Germany. No outsourcing, no middleman. That same facility has been perfecting blade making for over 100 years. So for a limited time, our listeners can get the Harry's Plus trial set for only $10 at harrys.com/chat. This set includes the all-new Harry's Plus razor, 1 refined 5-blade cartridge, a 2-ounce foaming shave gel, and a travel cover to protect your blades on the go. Again, just go to harrys.com/chat. Use the code CHAT to claim this offer. After you make your purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show. Tell them that Chat Sports, the 49ers Report, and Chase Sr. sent you. I'll put this link down below in the show notes. Attached to the pinned comment is that link. I had a bunch of people a couple of weeks ago say, Chase, thank you so much for this deal. Hop on it right now. All right, let's get to the back half of our preview here. Welcome into the San Francisco 49ers Report. My name is Chase Sr. Hope you're all having a fantastic day. Coming up, my keys to the game for this Monday Night Football game between the Niners and the Panthers. I'm going to give you my prediction as well. Top matchups to watch. We'll break that down and what the Niners must do in order to be victorious to move that record to 8-4 on the year. How the Panthers stack up on offense. Carolina, 18-8 points per game. 28th in the NFL. 314.3 yards per game. That's 22nd. 5 yards per play. 26th. Third down conversion rate, 36.9%. That's 24th. Their red zone touchdown scoring rate, 54.2%, 20th in the NFL. On defense, 22.6 points per game allowed, 13th. 325.9 yards per game surrendered, 15th. 5.6 yards per play, that's 23rd. Their third down conversion rate, 43.3%. That's 29th in the NFL. So the Niners going to have an opportunity here to move the chains. And then their red zone touchdown scoring percentage is top 10 as a defense. Number 9 there at 52.9%. As for how the Niners stack up on offense, 15th in points per game at 23.7. 10th in yards per game. They've been moving it at 349.4. 13th in yards per play at 5.5. Third down conversion rate, third best in the NFL at 45.6%. 62.5% is their red zone touchdown scoring rate. That has gotten higher, especially after what the Niners did against the Cardinals last week. And then you look at the defense, 22.9 points per game. That's 15th in the NFL. To be there with all these injuries and young players playing, hat tip to Robert Saleh. 25th in yards per game. That's fine when you're not giving up a lot of points and buckling down in the red area. 25th in yards per play at 5.7. Third down conversion rate, 40.7%. It's 22nd best in the NFL. And their red zone scoring percentage, 16th, 58.9%. So my keys to the game for the Niners to be victorious here, some of my top matchups to watch. I'll tell you this. The pass rushing units for the Niners and the Panthers absolutely stink. If you are somebody who loves watching dominant pass rushes and watching teams hunt and get after the quarterback, this game is not for you. Because these pass rushers have really struggled to get pressure on the opposing QB. The Niners this year, total sacks, they only have 12. It's 32nd in the NFL. Their second best sack producer is Nick Bosa. He hasn't played since week 3. Total pressure is 107, 26th in the NFL. The Niners have 79 hurries. It's 29th in the league. Their pressure rate, dead last at 26.23%. The Panthers' pass rushing stats, not much better. Total sacks, 16th. Total pressures, 142. That ranks 30th. Total hurries, 90. That's 25th. Their pressure rate, just north of 38%. That's second to last in the NFL. So Bryce Young, Brock Purdy, these are numbers that you like to see because that means usually you will have a clean pocket. Another thing with the Niners, intermediate to long passes, since Fred Warner has gotten hurt, they've been one of the worst defenses in the NFL, giving up a lot of explosive plays. Bryce Young hasn't been able to really find it all year long, has an opportunity to find it against the Niners here. Key to the game number 2. This Panthers offense runs through Rico Dowdle. And I was surprised that the Cowboys let Rico Dowdle go. They needed a running back. Now they've replaced him with a running back who has ended up performing pretty well. And I guess it's worked out for both parties. But for Carolina, Rico Dowdle's been awesome. Javonte Williams with Dallas, he's been good. But I think Rico Dowdle's been better. And you look at the rushing yards leaders in 2025, nobody outside of Jonathan Taylor had this list looking like this going into week 12. And with running backs, so much can change year over year, of course. Now, Jonathan Taylor is leading the NFL in rushing yards at 1,139. James Cook is a stellar back. I didn't expect him to be number 2 this year, 968. Devon Achane, 900 yards. He's number 3. Rico Dowdle, 4th leading rusher in the NFL with 833 rushing yards this season. And then Javonte Williams there at 809, the aforementioned Javonte Williams of the Dallas Cowboys. Rico this year has had some splash games. For the most part, this Niners rushing defense has improved from last year. Against the Rams, they were not good. And without Mykel Williams, I think that's an area where they could continue to struggle because Mykel Williams is such an excellent run defender. But Dowdle this year, if you don't bring it as far as your rush defense, he'll make you pay. Back on October 5th against Miami, 23 totes for 206 yards, 9 yards per carry. Against the Cowboys, a little over a month ago, 30 carries for a $183, 6.1 yards per carry. Against the Packers, back a couple of weeks ago, earlier this month, 25 carries, 130 yards, and 5.2 yards per carry. That is a big reason why the Panthers have been able to find success with what they're doing in the ground game. They've had to rely on running the football because Bryce Young has been not good this year. Not going to say terrible, just hasn't been that good. He's completing under 63% of his passes. He's thrown for less than 2,000 yards, 14 touchdowns, 7 picks. He just looks small, can't really drive the ball, doesn't move around, doesn't see the field all that well. Now, what Niners defense are we going to get? This is a Niners defense that did give up 488 yards last week to Jacoby Brissett and the Cardinals, 6.9 yards per play. Jacoby Brissett dropped back 57 times. The Niners only pressured him 13 times, did not have a single sack. They gave up 452 passing yards. The bright spot of that Niners performance, the improvements against the run, which in the week prior against the Rams, it killed them because the Rams were able to control the game. That's what happens when you're able to run the ball successfully and on defense when you can't stop the run. So 14 carries for 36 yards, 2.6 yards per pop. I imagine the Niners are going to sell out in trying to stop Rico Dowdle, knowing they can't allow the Panthers to get that ground game going, knowing that Bryce Young throwing it this year has had some issues. Now, this Niners rushing defense all year, yeah, not bad. 13th in yards per rush at 4.1. 12th in rushes per game. So teams are running at a decent amount, 25 running attempts per game. Rushing yards per game, total, 103.8. That's 12th in the NFL. Key to the game number 3. This Niners secondary has to bring it against Ted McMillan because the Carolina Panthers found a guy in Ted McMillan. The rookie first-round pick out of Arizona, 6'4", well over 200 pounds, runs well, can go up and get it, strong arms, long frame, good wingspan, and he's going to be the number 1 wide receiver for this Panthers team for the foreseeable future. If Xavier Legette can get it together, he's been bad for the most part, but played well last week. That is a very physically imposing 1-2 punch-out wide receiver for Carolina. In his rookie season, Ted McMillan, 54 catches, 748 yards, 13.9 yards per catch, 4 receiving touchdowns, 68 yards per game. Something that I'll be watching too in this game, how will Brock Purdy look against Carolina? Because against Arizona, he was efficient. He threw with really good touch. He threw with accuracy. In his patented Brock Purdy way, he was able to layer the football. I thought he moved around pretty well. He threw some balls up for grabs, but for him to have not played since week 4 and to only have 7 incompletions, throw for 200 yards, have a quarterback rating of 133.5, 3 touchdowns, no picks, and 10.5 was the number for the yards per completion, I was very pleased with how Purdy played because he really wasn't that rusty and didn't really have to get his feet wet. I mean, he jumped right in, and on his second drive, he was, 4 of 5 for 68 yards and a 30-yard strike to George Kittle. We saw Brock Purdy coming back, brought about that George Kittle connection. He was dominant in that game, and then Christian McCaffrey running it, receiving it, he was also really good. I do have a prediction for this Panthers game. Breakout performer on Monday Night Football, it's going to be Ricky Pearsall, I think. Ricky Pearsall didn't put up a lot of numbers against Arizona last week. But if you go back and look at the tape, he got open a lot. And there was some meat left in the bone for this Niners passing game. And at times, even when he was open, the pass rush kind of blew up the play and got to Brock Purdy. But there were times where Ricky Pearsall was able to separate. He was able to win. He was able to run filthier routes, juke out the DBs, and he was open. We have seen that Purdy has had a good connection with Ricky Pearsall. And against this Panthers secondary, which is okay, not bad, not great, I think that Pearsall has a big game in primetime on Monday night. And this is an important development for the Niners here over time and what's happened recently. This Niners offensive line has improved. Now, when the Niners offensive line goes up against legitimate defenses and really good edge rushers and fronts, that's when they struggle. When they go up against bad teams, that's when they're able to have their way. But even when they go up against good teams, there are some positive developments here for this Niners offensive line. They have stabilized the left guard position with this veteran tandem after benching Connor Colby. Spencer Burford, Ben Barch have been rotating there at left guard, and they've been playing pretty well. And then another big development here is that Dominic Puni is healthy and he's playing well. Early in the year, that knee was not right from when he got injured against the Raiders in that preseason game. He struggled mightily. Now that he's gotten healthy, he's strong enough with the anchor. The physicality and the athleticism is back. He's able to get a push, and he looks a lot more like the player who we saw last year, who was one of the top guards in all of football. So predict the score for me. Carolina Panthers, San Francisco 49ers. Always want you to join the conversation down in the comment section. The Niners are 7-point favorites in this football game. And I think this Niners offense continues to hum a little bit with what they did against the Cardinals, with them getting healthier and acclimated with one another, that rapport working a little bit. So give me the Niners 31-20. And I know that from team value, Niners-Panthers doesn't get a lot of people juice as far as this Monday Night Football game, especially with Carolina, smaller market, not a team that has a lot of stars. But as far as the playoff picture goes, this game has a lot of big implications here. The Niners are in that 7 seed at 7-4. Not a lot of breathing room there. And the NFC North, it's a really good competition right now. 3 teams might get in. And if 3 teams get in, 3 teams from the NFC West not going to get in. Because you're going to have your divisional winners from the NFC East. It's going to be Philly. And the NFC South, we'll see, between Tampa Bay and Carolina. But you look at where Carolina is, if the Niners lose this game and drop to 7-5, they have an equal record to Carolina, and Carolina would own the tiebreaker. So a big game in the NFC playoff hunt coming up on Monday night. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button here for daily and year-round coverage of the San Francisco 49ers As always, thank you so much for your support, and we'll catch you all soon. Thomas, I heard on another podcast, Carolina's covered like 7 games or something. Give me the Niners 26-20. As we showed you earlier, man, they've played a lot of close games. They've won some wacky games. And it's pretty wild that they've won 6 games this season.
I mean, when you lose to the Saints, how do you lose to the Saints?
After beating the Packers. Makes no sense.
Got blasted by the Bills.
Yes.
Just I don't know what to expect.
It's crazy. Crazy.
Black Mask, yeah, some big games this week. Bucks, Rams, Packers, Vikings.
Good slate.
So,
do or die, I guess.
Yeah.
Makes that one an important one.
Bears, Steelers, good. It's an intriguing matchup. We don't get Bears, Steelers all that often.
Aaron Rodgers against the Bears.
Love that.
He's owned Chicago throughout his entire career. No Eddie P is a big problem from Johnny True. I agree. Matt Gay has been an accomplished kicker, but of late, on kicks at 50-plus especially, has not been good. How are we doing with questions there, Chip? Do we have enough for a mailbag?
Let's see. Chua, Gaming Joker. We got about 8 questions.
8 questions? All right, last call. Get those questions in. Hashtag 49ers. Send in a super chat.
I think we got enough to run it.
Hashtag 49ers. Send in a super chat. If you send in a super chat, by the way, you could skip the line and we'll answer your question right away. So mailbag coming up next to round out our live show. That's right. David Dole, 42-21. Niners win. All right. Mailbag coming up. Let's do it. Hey, faithful, welcome into the show. You're watching the San Francisco 49ers Report. By the time that you're watching this, I hope all of you are having a phenomenal weekend. You've had some great plans, and you're having a lot of fun. We're having some fun on today's show, opening up the floor, answering your questions for a mailbag. Before we do take your questions, though, and talk all things Niners here on the program, a programming reminder. Be sure to subscribe. Join us. Niners Panthers Monday Night Football Watch Party coming your way live on the San Francisco 49ers Report. We'll do an hour pregame show on Monday evening. This is the best place to experience a Niners game day outside of being at the actual game. And when you do hit that sub button, or for anybody watching right now, make sure your notifications are on and make sure you set them to all. Therefore, anytime we go live, anytime we push out a video like this, you will get that push notification and you will be notified. Let's begin here with the Gaming Jokers. Chase, love the show. Thank you, brother. Appreciate that. Question: why is there still hate around Purdy even after his return against the Cardinals? No matter what he does, a lot of people will say he's not a top 10 quarterback. I've never really understood the Brock Purdy hate. I think this is a story that is fascinating. It's one that you should root for. First of all, Brock Purdy is a great character guy. He's a great leader for this team. When Fred Warner, Trent Williams, and George Kittle are saying, we noticed right away this guy was for real and he is our quarterback, I trust their evaluations and what they see behind the scenes. But what we've seen from Purdy has been storybook. The guy was Mr. Irrelevant in 2022, final pick of the draft. He comes in the 2022 season, goes undefeated up until the NFC Championship game. Then in his first full season as a starter, coming off the elbow surgery, he leads the Niners to the Super Bowl in a game that they should have won. Can you imagine what the conversations would be around Purdy if he won the Super Bowl? And obviously he still has an opportunity to win one in his career. They would probably, if they're not already working on the script, make a movie about Brock Purdy. And last year, I think some people cooled on Purdy, but look, I wasn't a fan of how he tried to play hero ball late. But on offense, the Niners suffered from so many injuries. There was such a lack of continuity, and that was the case literally from training camp. Brandon Ayuk holding out, Christian McCaffrey hurt, Trent Williams not there, Deebo Samuel in and out of the lineup, George Kittle missed some time. The Niners, once again, a year ago, one of the top 10 most injured teams in football. I think people will automatically discredit Purdy because he's not 6'5". He doesn't have a rocket launcher for an arm. He's a smaller quarterback who has a good arm but not a great arm. He doesn't run around like Lamar Jackson, although I think his mobility is underrated. And so people just look at Purdy and they say, no way, he's a top 10 guy. But since he came into the league, he's been the most efficient quarterback. Statistically, he's been one of the best quarterbacks. And I actually really enjoy watching him play because he has that lack of size. He doesn't have the stupidest arm strength in the world, right? But what he does is so impressive from a timing, anticipation, accuracy, layering footballs, being smart, cerebral, high football IQ type of player. So he plays the game of quarterback in an old school type of way in an era where the quarterback position has been a little bit watered down. Clap counts, one read. If it's not there, take off and run. The high school and college game, a lot of those offensive schemes have been adopted by NFL teams. And pre-snap, post-snap, you don't have to do a lot of the things that Joe Montana had to do, that Steve Young had to do, that Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Tom Brady had to do. And so Brock Purdy, to me, is an old school type of quarterback, and I find it refreshing to watch when we don't see a lot of those quarterbacks any longer. The guy's also tough and has a lot of fire and cares. Niner faithful also, people might say, oh, he's making $55 million per year now. He's not worth it. Looked pretty damn good against Arizona. Didn't have to shake off any rust. Hadn't played since week 4 through 3 touchdowns and no picks. Do you think that Nick Martin will see more action on defense with the injury to Tatum Bethune? Yes, Niner faithful. I do think that we're going to see more of Nick Martin. He played in 14 snaps against Arizona. The guy had 7 tackles in those 14 snaps. Now, he started to see some action for the first time all year, and I thought he played pretty well, all things considered. I will tell you this. He's going to make mistakes. You got to live with it. He will make some wild plays where he shot out of a cannon. He ranges east to west, gets into the backfield, makes a big hit. But he will also have lapses in coverage where he doesn't really know what spot of the zone he should be covering or drop back to or what guy he's supposed to cover. But like we've lived with the ups and downs of a player like Upton Stout or Mykel Williams, C.J. West, Alfred Collins, Marquise Siegel, you got to do the same with Nick Martin. And that's why it's never made sense that the Niners didn't play him this year, because they've lived with some of the mistakes that the other young players have made. Why not do the same with Nick Martin? Plus, he gives you athleticism that makes you say, wow, that sticks out on tape. That when you're watching a game, he makes a play and you're like, holy shit, look at number 45. I also like his skill set. Over time, he'll be better in coverage. You can use him right now as a blitzer. He's a solid run defender. And with the injury to Tatum Bethune, Curtis Robinson is going to man that middle linebacker spot, but he moves up the totem pole as far as the depth goes. Ali or Ali, one of the two. Hopefully I pronounced it right. Thanks for your question here. Can the 49ers potentially use Mac Jones in a package deal for a premium edge rusher like Max Crosby or Myles Garrett? So I do think that the Niners are going to get a lot of calls after the year about the trade availability of Mac Jones. And I think that Mac Jones has proven that he can be a legitimate starter in this league. What he did under Kyle Shanahan this season was very impressive. And there are teams that are going to need a quarterback after this year. Do I think that Mac Jones can be the component of a trade to get a player like Max Crosby or Myles Garrett? No. But if you're looking at the Browns, we'll see what happens with Shedeur Sanders the rest of the year. Chances are they need a quarterback, even after they drafted 2 in April. The Raiders, they paid Geno Smith. He stinks. The thing with Mac Jones is that not only do I think he can be a legitimate starter in this league, next year, he's very affordable for $4+ million. So if you do have Geno on the roster, some of these really good college quarterbacks go back to school, making the quarterback class thin, and you don't want to draft a QB, you could have Geno Smith on your team and then cut bait after 2026 because Mac Jones isn't making anything. Now, what would it take to get a player like Max Crosby or Myles Garrett? It would take probably a first-round pick, maybe 2, and Mac Jones in order to get a player like that. If I'm the Raiders this offseason, I would trade Max Crosby and Brock Bowers. I would completely tear it down to the studs. I would rebuild because there are so many different players away from competing. I would fire Pete Carroll, and I would start over. And if you trade Crosby and Bowers, it's 4 or 5 first-round picks you could potentially get. For the Browns, rebuilding team, doesn't make sense on an awful team to pay an edge rusher more than $40 million. More of your questions coming up here on the other side, but let's get to our sponsor. Today's 49ers Report is brought to you by Prize Picks. I love Prize Picks so much. Join the millions of users. Sign up today on America's #1 fantasy sports app. The hard-hitting football action even better with Prize Picks. The weather might be changing, but the feeling of being right never gets old. So keep the season rolling on Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. Prize Picks has a couple of new features. It's the only app that offers stacks, meaning you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. You want to pick more on Josh Allen's pass yards, rush yards, or touchdowns. Now you can pick all of them in the same lineup only on Prize Picks. Follow other Prize Picks players directly on the app. Copy their lineups in one click. Whether it's a friend, a celebrity partner, or just somebody whose picks you like, hit the follow button and check out every lineup they create in the new feed tab on Prize Picks. 2-pick power play. Christian McCaffrey more on the receiving yards. It's been a go-to this year. It's been incredible. Ted McMillan, more than a half rushing or receiving touchdown. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code CLNS. Get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Our guy Chua, do you believe in Matt Gay? Do you think that he will struggle? How will he perform in place of Eddie Pinheiro? So look, when you lose a kicker midway through the year, there aren't going to be a lot of good options because the 32 best kickers are currently on teams. If I were the Niners, I probably would have gone with Anders Carlson. I know he's been spotty with other teams, but when he kicked for the Niners for a brief time a couple of years ago, he was good. Has a really good leg. And so with Matt Gay, he's replacing a player in Eddie Pinheiro who has been so good this year. 22 for 22 on his field goal makes and attempts. And whether it be 40 to 49 yards, 50 plus, Eddie Pinheiro has earned the nickname Eddie Dinero for a reason. The guy's been money. Matt Gay has had success in his career. He was a kicker for the Rams back when they won the Super Bowl in 2021, and he was a Pro Bowler that year. He was 32 of 34 on his field goal attempts, 94.1%, 48 of 49 on his extra points, and 4 of 5 on kicks of 50-plus yards. Booming leg. Now, the last 2 years, Matt Gay has not missed an extra point, but he has struggled from 50-plus. This year with Washington, 4 of 9. Last year with Indy, 3 of 9. So in the last 2 years, he is 7 of 18 on kicks of 50-plus. So that's a concern, but maybe instead of going for a field goal, Kyle Shanahan opts to go for it, knowing that. I think what the Niners liked about Gay, big leg if they need it, maybe they can get his confidence back on track, but they know they're bringing in a kicker who in 3 seasons during his career has been 100% on his extra points. The Niners know that he's not going to cost them in that area. So some concerns for sure because of how good Pinheiro has been. But Matt Gay, coming to the Niners, pressure's on you. Don't revert to the Jake Moody territory because you will become hated very fast. Gouda, or gut air player, or guitar player. I think it was the last one. Do you think the Niners trade Brandon Ayuk in the offseason? Do you think that is what ownership wants? I could see this going so many different ways. Some people might say, well, Brandon Ayuk hasn't come back this season because he's disgruntled with the Niners. Does anybody know that? I don't think so. I think why he hasn't come back is because the dude tore 3 ligaments in his knee. It was probably the worst injury that you could suffer as far as tearing everything in there. And so it wasn't a clean ACL, where sometimes guys can come back in 9 to 12 months. Also remember that he suffered that injury week 7 of last year, but didn't get surgery until a few weeks later. So we're either at or approaching the year mark from the surgery, not just the injury. How much trade value will he have after the year, coming off an injury like this? If he doesn't play this year, especially, and doesn't put anything on tape. Now, if he comes back in the final month and balls out, a team might say, we need a wideout. We have money. We can pay BA. But you pair him up with Ricky Pearsall, and if they're both healthy, you talk about guys who can beat man and zone, who are dynamic, really good route runners. BA and Pearsall are that. Jeannie Wyatt, faithful ladies. Will the Hulk play this Sunday? I don't see why they haven't allowed him to play. What do you think, Chase? If I were the Niners, I would start playing a lot of these young players. They finally did it with Nick Martin against Arizona. I would give Sebastian Valdez, that's the Hulk, that's his nickname, some more snaps. Like, instead of Kevin Givens and Jordan Elliott getting snaps, you know who they are right now. Why not see who Sebastian Valdez is? Why not give him 10 snaps a game? Just see if he can make an impact. Because in the preseason, he was an impactful player, and I think that play translates. Physicality, violence, and explosion for that size. Niner faithful again. If Robert Saleh gets a head coaching job, did the Niners get a comp pick? That's a really good question. Let me try to find out here on the fly. Let me see. Because it would be a minority hire for another team. It's got to be for a head coaching job, obviously, not a coordinator job. Grok is telling me no. But it also says here the coach executive has to be a minority to fit one of the criterias. I thought because Saleh is Lebanese that the Niners got a comp pick back for him when he left after the 2020 season. I could be wrong on that, but I'll have to double check. It would take me some more time, and I don't want to just give you blank airspace here on the show. Let's see. Let me check it here. I don't think the Niners got a compensatory pick for Saleh in 2020. For some reason, I thought they did. They got one for Rand Carthon. They got one for Mike McDaniel because one of his parents is black, one of his parents is white. They got one for D'Amico Ryans. I thought they got a compensatory pick for him. See, I'm seeing here that they did. Yeah, I'm seeing that they did. So I'm pretty sure, because he's of Lebanese descent, that he fits that criteria thanks to the Rooney Rule revision. And the Niners would get a compensatory pick back for him. And it was a third rounder back when he left originally. So, good point right there. Great mailbag. Thanks for getting those questions in, everybody. You're all real ones. We appreciate y'all. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Next time that we'll catch you live, will obviously be for Monday Night Football against Carolina. Plenty of coverage to come up until the lead up to kickoff. All right, good stuff, everybody. So we are going to dip on out of here on this Thursday, November 20th. If you're just joining the show, you can rewind back and watch it. We'll have some videos up on the channel a little bit later. Put up a YouTube short a little bit earlier as well. Check that out because the content never stops. So we will see you live Monday night. Myself, Chip, Niners, Panthers, Levi's Stadium. See you then. Thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting.